Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, 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 my lovelies, and welcome back to the garden. Hi, Serena. How you doing? You're on mute, girl.
That figures. I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm so happy to finally be back on an episode with you. Last time I get to hang out with Pyle. This time I get to hang out with you again.
It's nice to be here. I like being on the show.
Oh, I love it too. I get to hear you read to me, and that's one of my favorite things. So, tell us a little bit about the story you plan on reading tonight before we go into mine.
Well, mine's going to be in Killing Stroke Buried Secrets, which is releasing on Halloween. The theme of it was inside the mind of a killer. And I think I did okay with it. I really do. So it has a nice, at least to my mind, a nice twist at the end.
Oh, it has a really nice twist, and I love the setting. I spent a whole lot of my childhood in that setting just so I could hang out with my dad. Okay, guys. I am going to read you Whistle While You Die. I don't know if you guys have picked up yet. I am writing a whole series where death is a personified actual person that can talk to you and help you transition. And I've even went as far as making the document for the book and finding a guy that looks almost like what I pictured as death. So, in this one, you get to see it from his point of view as I read. So, without further ado, Whistle While You Die. Death blipped into the horrific scene of his next transition. He heard crying and whimpering to his left as he watched the gray, smooth-skinned creature eating the man he came to get. Its sunken eyes glinted in the moonlight as its long, pointed fingers wrapped around the decedent's leg and ripped it off. Death cringed as he saw the creature tear into the thigh meat with its elongated needle-like teeth. It's so tall and thin, Death thought in horror to himself as he noticed its defined muscles and slender frame hunched over the man. He took a deep breath as he turned and walked to the decedent that was still in the fetal position on the forest floor, crying and whimpering. He had to find out why this man did such a stupid thing. He knelt to look at the man. What were you thinking, my guy? The decedent... my mouse is giving me issues today. He stopped and took a deep breath and tried to again. It was all superstitious bullshit. I knew it was stupid hillbilly nonsense, so I came to show everyone that it was. He seemed indignant as he stood up to look down into Death's face. Death raised back to standing to look down in the man's eyes. With a deep sigh, Death asked, "What song did you whistle?" He looked back into the decedent's eyes, unamused at his change in mood after another glance at the thing eating. The mood changed to embarrassment as he replied, "The whistle song. I got so into dancing to it as I sang and whistled, I did not notice the thing coming up beside me," he admitted, then thought for a moment as he looked at Death, as Death rubbed his hand across his own face. "Who are you and how did you find me?" he demanded indignantly. As he got closer to Death, realizing he had to look up and couldn't get up into his face, he didn't seem to like not being in charge, or some man in a suit was questioning his actions. Death smirked and looked down into the smaller man's face as he introduced himself. "Hello, Cooper Canefield. I am the Grim Reaper, also known as Death. I have come to guide you to your afterlife." Cooper stepped back stunned. He looked down at himself, looked back at this creature still gnawing away at his body. He nodded and looked at Death. "I understand I'm dead now. But a three-piece suit?" he asked. Death... there we go. Pardon me. This is... Death smiled and asked, "After being torn apart by a creature we do not name, why would you think me showing up as the popular visage would help you calm down and transition to your next chapter?" Death could see he was thinking through many things. "What have we learned?" he asked, very amused, making Cooper jump. He flinched as he sighed. As he looked up at Death, he mumbled, "Superstitions are not bullshit. Good, good. Are we ready?" Death asked as he waved his arm, making a portal into the afterlife appear. He and Cooper stared at it for a moment. The blue light motioned to Cooper. He saw his face light up as he stepped through. He made sure that Cooper made it through to his family and shut the portal. With Cooper's transition over, he allowed himself one more look at the creature. With a shudder, he blipped into the next transition. What do you think?
I love it.
You love it?
I love it.
Okay. What do you think about seeing a story from his point of view?
It's definitely a different twist, and that makes it more interesting to me.
Yes. I definitely like that. I'm trying to do more with cryptid deaths. I got one more done, and then we're going to find out what happened to Mr. Phelps and Mrs. Phelps in their afterlife journey next. How does that sound?
Interesting. I always like couple deaths because that ends up there being more to it. It's more beefy. It sounds
Well,
weird, but it's more beefy.
actually, they didn't die together. They died at two different times in two different places. Because I told you guys how Miss Phelps died.
Right.
I have not told you guys. I have told you guys. Well, I have told you guys where Mr. Phelps is, not how he died yet. But I will in the future. Okay, beautiful, amazing Serena. Will you please read us that amazing story you wrote?
Okay, it's called Changes. Let me tell you about how I changed. Sounds cliche, I know. Still, in the grand scheme of things, I think it's an interesting story. I was nothing special before, at least not in my own eyes. I kept my proclivities to a minimum to avoid being caught. The world frowns on those who kill for fun. Though I had so many kills under my belt, I was discreet. That was for safety's sake, you see. The idea of life in a small box didn't appeal to me. I was proud of the count I had amassed. I was bigger than Bundy, and no one knew my name. I was a ghost. The ones I had killed were yet unknown, and I meant to keep it that way. The thing I did not realize then was that there were monsters out there worse than I ever could be. All the blood on my hands had attracted the attention of such a creature. I was being hunted, and I didn't have any clue about it. I went about my normal routine unaware. I limited myself to no more than one kill a month. Though I hungered for more, I could not risk the possibility of getting caught. It took willpower to limit myself. I told myself that was part of the process. If I allowed myself to give in to the urges, I would be no more than an animal. That was not something I wanted to be. I wanted to be smarter than the police. I wanted to be strong. I wanted to be cunning. If I gave in to my baser urges, then I could not be any of those things. There are all sorts of monsters in this world, and so many of them wear human faces. I was just one in the crowd. I knew I was a monster, and I was proud of it. I just didn't know there was so much worse out there. I entertained myself with stories about werewolves and vampires, imagining I was something akin to them, hidden away from sight in plain view. I laughed at the shows where the killer was in the morgue or the crime scene unit. That made it too easy. I had to plan everything down to the minute details to avoid being caught. When I was doing this, I worked as a truck driver. Someone transient the world ignored. It was the perfect cover for me. Do you have any idea how many people hitchhike every day? People who disappeared and no one had any idea where. Most were never even missed. I watched the missing person listings you see on the internet, looking for the ones that I had picked up. I never saw any of them. The first few were problematic for me to dispose of, but I was quick-witted and solved the problem without any worry. However, this is not the story of my kills. I am not here to brag. That is just to set the scene. I mentioned that I was being hunted. There are immortal things in the world. Some of them protect children. Some of them create the things that go bump in the night. I had attracted the latter, or maybe it was the mixture of the two. I really don't know which. I suppose I had become somewhat cocksure. I was still careful with the ones I had targeted, but I didn't pay attention to the other people I encountered. They were of no interest to me, realistically. I owned the truck, so I rarely had to deal with any passengers unless I chose to. The dispatcher calling me to ask if I could handle a trainee driver was a true surprise. He offered me a double pay for the 2 weeks the trainee would be in my truck. Greed was my downfall here, I am certain. I jumped at the increase in pay. I figured it was only 2 weeks and I could deal with the delay in my normal activities for that long. My nerves were already jumping by the time I picked up the trainee, though I didn't have any reason for it. The other driver was tall and lean, with long black hair pulled back in a tight braid. His eyes were soft blue, surrounded by lashes enough to effeminate any lesser man. I put my people face on and greeted him like an old friend. He said his name was Azrael. I introduced myself to him with a name that I no longer remember. I did not notice that smile then, but in memory he smiled an almost demonic grin. Or maybe I am embellishing the whole thing with what I know now. Training a new driver is nerve-wracking for any intelligent person. You're letting someone else control your truck. Driving an 80-ton death machine takes skill and awareness. Trainees are not always given more than enough information than they need to get everyone killed. I wish I could say that I was strong enough to refuse the money. I ended up doing it as often as they asked me, though thankfully it wasn't often. I should regret meeting Azrael. The first day was relatively easy and we seemed to get along fine. Dispatch treats training pairs like a team, which means we were expected to trade who would be driving and the other one sleep. I took the first shift at the wheel, leaving the day driving for the newbie. Not everyone is suited for the night shift. I loved it. The roads were more barren and it made picking up hitchhiking pretties easier. I remember when I went to bed, I was surprised at how well this was going. Sleep came easy. The first few times I had taken a trainee before, I had struggled to sleep with someone else driving my truck. I remember my dreams so vividly. I was standing in front of 3 people, and I was terrified. I knew that they were simply not someone that would be good for me to be in front of at any point. It was 2 men and a woman, but not a single one of them looked human. The one in the center was the closest to human looking. Over 6 feet with gray skin and blue fire where his eyes should be. His long white hair nearly brushed the ground. The other man was huge with wings, tail, and horns. When I say huge, I swear he was 20 feet in height and built of sheer muscle. The female was gorgeous enough, with a body that made a person think of sin first, except for the textured area on the right side of her face and the horn that sprouted from it. She was the one that spoke to me. Her voice was husky and soft as crushed velvet. The blood covers you like a second skin. What do you think you deserve for your choices? In the dream, I stuttered, "What blood?" Then I looked down, and all I saw was the blood covering me. It was dripping from me like molasses and formed a large puddle at my feet. I woke up screaming. Azrael was calm sounding as he asked if I was okay. I looked about in a panic. The curtains between the driver and sleeper compartment were still pulled tightly, blocking the light and the line of sight to where we were. I don't think I have ever had a dream like that before. I grabbed a water from the fridge, opened the curtains, and jumped into the passenger seat. I was not feeling like sleeping right then. How long was I down? He raised his eyebrow as he shifted lanes. Nearly 8. We're about 20 minutes away from the truck stop I was supposed to wake you at. This only left me more tired and confused than I had been moments ago. I could have sworn I had just fallen asleep. For once, I was honestly looking forward to the rot gut stop coffee. Maybe it would help me shake off the dream and be ready to function. The load had enough leeway for us to grab showers and food, something that was not always possible. We spent a good hour at the truck stop before moving on. Azrael woke up early, too. He seemed to be in a curious mood as he grabbed water and the passenger seat looking for a chin wag. Never have I been a people person, so I was caught off guard. None of the other trainees wanted me to talk. This guy was not being nosy, just personable. His questions were not intrusive, so I felt like it would be rude not to answer, even if I was not interested in telling him anything about myself. So that last hour I was driving, I ended up telling him about my childhood, the reasons why I drove, and what I called a life currently. I remember the conversation being animated and long. I no longer remember the content, though I guess that's part of the story too. The same thing happened for the next few days. I would go to sleep only to find myself in front of the same 3. The female is always the one who spoke and always asked me the same question. I did not panic about the blood after the first time, but it was disturbing. I couldn't understand why I was so covered in it. I had no wounds. I had no reason to be drenched in blood. I usually can control my dreams, but these were beyond my control. I always awoke just moments before my shift, and I always felt like I had not slept at all, even though I had been sleeping for nearly 8 hours every time. I will admit I was starting to feel like I was losing my mind. I couldn't even blame Azrael. We were making the mileage while I slept. How could he have affected my dreams like that? Though his cheer and energy were draining me as I sat up with no rest each time. The lack of rest was starting to cause me to be paranoid. I was starting to hallucinate, seeing parts of the people I had killed in the truck when I was awake. The first time I truly panicked. I saw a delicate hand that I recognized as having belonged to a teenage girl I had last enjoyed killing. She had such beauty and sweetness. I remember she took extra time because I was enjoying her so much. I must have looked so strange reaching for something on the floor that was not there. If Azrael noticed, he didn't say anything. I started hearing the voice of the woman in my dream while I was awake. I was slowly going insane, and I knew it. Azrael was merely doing the job and ignoring my shenanigans. I'm not even sure if he was aware of the crazy things that I was going through. I was beginning to think that this was my penance for the many lives I had taken, and I wanted to accept it, mostly because I was exhausted. I felt like I wasn't sleeping, and after a full week of it, I was beyond tired. The seventh night, I went to sleep with a single thought in mind. I was going to accept my fate, whatever that meant. I doubted it would wash the blood away, but I would finally rest. That's what I wanted. I was terrified of the consequences that I was about to face, but I also knew that I could no longer continue as I was. Again, I stood in front of the three. Details seemed sharper this time. I could smell the copper tang of all the blood mixed with a sulfur stench. I swear I could smell my own fear under it all. The voice of the woman was soft and musky, with a hint of disdain underlying everything she was saying. I felt like she was looking down on me. I was less than an ant in her gaze. Her hazel eye, the one human-looking eye, seemed to be judging me. The other was black and hard as she stared at me, waiting for an answer to her demand. I had yet to speak in any of the dreams past the very first one. I swallowed, trying to control my fear, and spoke quickly. I deserve to pay my penance and then finally be able to rest. Though I have killed quite a few souls, I don't deserve to be tormented for eternity. The woman stepped back, a single fluid step, as though I had given her the response she was looking for. I remember thinking at the time that she moved like an assassin. The large creature on the other side spoke then. The voice was something that sounded like it was carved from hell itself, something both dark and deep that one could lose themselves in. What penance would you pay that would be worth the lives that you have taken? I knew it was a question that I was expected to answer, but I was not sure how to do it. I don't know what they were looking for from me here. The debate felt like it took me an eternity. Making the wrong decision might make doubly sure I suffered. I will admit that I was entirely selfish about the situation. Finally, with an uncertain sigh, I settled for the truth. I wanted to beg. Somehow, I didn't think that would do any good. So I stuck to the truth against my own desires. I don't know. I cannot say that I have any remorse for my deeds. I enjoyed the lives I took. Still, I do not believe that I should be eternally tormented. Asking me to choose what penance I deserve is basically letting me get away with a lighter one. And whilst I am so fine with that, I doubt you would be. The middle one let out a belly laugh that rattled my soul. This was the first sound I had ever heard him make, and it scared me. I cannot explain why, but he was not someone that anyone would expect to laugh. Somehow he was the most human of the three, and yet he was also the one who scared me the most. His presence was more potent than the other two. This time I could see the blue flames not only coming from his eye sockets, but from his mouth and hands as well. It gave an eerie feeling to him as he spoke. If I give you the ability to continue what you have been doing with a minor change, Would you take it? He asked so casually. I was too quick to accept that choice. I should have thought about it more. I imagined that I would still be killing as I had been done before, but supervised by these three somehow. He laughed again. This time it sounded mean more than anything. Though I had not spoken my thoughts aloud, I had the feeling somehow he knew what I was thinking. Suddenly, I was knocked off my feet by the most intense pain I had ever felt. I didn't wake up as I had every other time. Instead, I began to change. Physical changes came first, exquisitely painful. It was the first time I ever had a pain that I would have described as almost orgasmic in its intensity. I grew taller by another 6 inches. I had already been over 6 feet, so this put me closer to 7. I sprouted 2 6-inch horns from my forehead, and an immense pair of leathery wings grew from my upper back. I grew a 3-foot prehensile tail about a half an inch above my ass crack. My skin changed to a ruby red coloration with brown hair growing everywhere. Next came the mental changes. I soon forgot the majority of the life I had lived. It was no longer mine. I no longer had the emotions attached to that life either. I was becoming something else. My senses began to sharpen, causing the surroundings to feel overwhelming nearly immediately. The sulfuric smell, copper tang of the blood that had formed a pool at my feet, the cool dampness of the pool I was standing in, the faint screams that seemed to be coming from everywhere around us and echoing softly across the cavern we were in. The new sensations were nearly maddening on their own. Azrael joined us soon after my change was done. He looked no different than he had in the truck, at least not in a physical way, but now he seemed to have an eerie pale blue aura surrounding him. I found myself grasping at the image of the Mac I had driven for the last few years. I barely remembered buying it new. As the memory started to fade away, I wanted to cry. I knew I was losing everything that made me to this change. It was fading fast from my mind. He looked me over and smiled at the middle guy. So, decided to give Bub a new trainee, huh? I was confused and in immense pain, so I didn't see what was going on yet. I was looking around, trying to piece the puzzle together. We were in a cavernous room that looked like it was carved out of blood and lava. I still, at that point, believed we were standing on Earth somewhere. I was not bright back then enough to piece my location together. I have grown wisdom in age. The middle one nodded and then looked directly at me. The big one here is Beelzebub. He is now your boss. He will lead you to the pit and teach you how to play. If you fail to listen to him, well, demons don't enjoy the pit either. Is that what I was? I thought. A demon. I looked again at the others around me. The middle one still scared me, though my perception of him had not changed. The woman seemed to have a reddish aura of pain and death surrounding her. Don't ask me how I knew what her aura meant. I still don't understand why her aura was more clear to me than Azrael's. The big one, Beelzebub, was more gentle in appearance than before. He reminded me of a gruff old grandfather who was only stern to keep his child safe. He led me here. I was given easy on instructions on everything I was both allowed to do and what was expected of me. He's been a gentle giant and the best boss ever since. I have been playing in the pit for 1,000 years now. I am allowed to enjoy tearing into the guests that find their way here. You're the first guest I have told my story to. I now know who each of the three are and what I have become. What I was before was boring. Serial killers are a dime a dozen, but pit fiends are a lot more fun. The names of the other two, well, names have power, and you don't deserve power. Nothing I have told you will help you escape, but it was fun for me to remember. Maybe I will try to remember more soon.
I love that story.
I think I did good.
You did amazing. The thing that keeps surprising me is you keep doing awesome stories, and then other people are like, yeah, we're going to use that. And you are so confused.
That's because I never see it as being as amazing as everybody else does. So
I love the twist. I love how it's a trucker story. And it's just definitely becoming one of my favorite stories. And I look forward to seeing what the story collection you put that in next. Because I know at some point it's going to go into a Serena story collection when you have it made.
Yep, it's going to be likely called Stacked Nightmares. I believe that's the one I've got it in. And Stacked Nightmares has quite a few.
That will be awesome.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing it because I've loved the last two. Okay, dear listeners, I hope you guys have enjoyed story time with us, and we look forward to the next one. Serena, where do you want people to find you?
Well, I believe that there is a link tree with all of my links in it. Otherwise, pretty much I'm listed either at S. Mossgraves or Serenity Small, just about everywhere. So.
Okay.
And, well, if I'm not there, try looking up Patty Mouse. She does a lot of talking for me.
Oh, yes. I love her, too. And beautiful Seekers of the Garden. You can find me everywhere. I'm at Facor. I'm here on Allight Network. Those are my two main places to hide because they let me be me and show whatever our hearts desire. I hope you all have a wonderful night. Thank you for coming.
Greetings and shabebans. We are the Retro Reductopus Cephala Podcast, a long-form bi-weekly show that celebrates all the things that made growing up awesome.
Yeah, that sounds good, but I don't know what all those words mean.
I think what Parasite Steve's trying to say is that on Retro Reductopus, we explore a range of retro goodness, from toys, video games, and movies, to cartoons, and even snacks and school lunches.
Oh.
And we do it all with a positive spin, a slew of killer guests, and some very adult language.
And you know what else is cool?
No.
This crazy show is part of the Your King Podcast Network with new episodes every Tentacle Tuesday.
What's that?
And if waiting 2 weeks for a new episode gives you a sad, know that we drop bonus episodes all the time, like the off-format Crow's Nest and an interview series we call The Brig.
You can listen to Retro Reductopus on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any app that's cool enough to carry the only show that celebrates all the things that make growing up awesome.